Hello and welcome to Pop and Fig. In this video, I will go over everything you need to know before you watch Thunderbolts. I will only use these projects as reference, so there will be no spoilers from the trailers nor the marketing. As for what I think are going to be really important, I would say it's going to be these four right here. That said, I do feel like I need to say who the Thunderbolts team is going to consist of, and those members are James Barnes, Ava Starr, John Walker, Yelena Belova, Alexei Shostakov, and Antonia Dreykov. To best summarize, I will highlight their events in a mostly chronological order as I believe that gives a fuller picture. Now, if you're watching this as it comes out, hi, apologies for being late. I have purposefully not watched this movie yet though, so I can keep this video as authentic as possible, and when I do get around to watching it, there will be a short, spoiler-free immediate review up in the corner right there. So, without any further ado, let's review. Our first member of the team is going to be James Buchanan Barnes, or more popularly known as Bucky. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II and was childhood best friends with Steve Rogers, the man who would eventually become Captain America. He and his unit were captured by Hydra, an offshoot organization of the Nazis who pursued their own goals for power, both political and cosmic. During his capture, Bucky was experimented on and turned into a super soldier, but Captain America saves him before Hydra could actually use him for anything. Bucky then served as a member of the Howling Commandos, but he was recaptured after falling down a ravine and presumed to be dead. With an arm broken or missing, Hydra gave him a robotic replacement and brainwashed him into the first Winter Soldier. After the war, Hydra was thought to have been exterminated, but it seems to have only just split up into two camps. One camp moving to Soviet Russia, and the other infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ranks, an American-based espionage and security agency.
If they cut off one head, two more shall take its place. Hail Hydra.
Bucky carried out many covert missions as the Silent Fist of Hydra, and he was frozen and preserved whenever he was not needed, thus expanding his lifespan. During the Korean War, Bucky had a run-in with Isaiah Bradley, the truest American super soldier since Steve. Not much is known about their clash nor anything in that time period, but apparently Bucky's arm was messed up pretty good, and Isaiah was experimented on for decades later by the US military. Decades later, in the December of 1991, Bucky is sent on a mission to retrieve a new batch of super soldier serums and to leave no witnesses. The serum is injected into Hydra's top assassins, creating even more Winter Soldiers. However, the defect in this batch made them overly aggressive, so they were put on ice and possibly never even used. Elsewhere in Russia, the Soviets had their own successful super soldier, that being Alexei Shostakov, aka the Red Guardian. From what we have seen, Alexei worked under the Red Room, the same organization responsible for indoctrinating and training the Black Widows, and he was close friends with its overseer, General Dreykov. In What If Season 3, there is an implied connection between the Red Room and Hydra, even suggesting that the Red Room got the 1991 serum assignment and passed it onward to Hydra and Bucky. They also imply another wild bombshell, so any canonicity of this episode's world building should probably be taken with a grain of salt. Alexei also keeps claiming that he fought the real Captain America, but we know that cannot be the case, as Steve was still buried in the ice of the Arctic after the war. A notable mission during Alexei's tenure as the Red Guardian is when he is tasked, alongside the Red Room's head scientist Yelena Vostokov, to steal information from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s North Institute in Ohio. The data Alexei and Yelena stole was a blueprint of the human brain, which was actually developed by Hydra with the Winter Soldier project. What did S.H.I.E.L.D. do with this? Seemingly nothing, especially since the Institute was then destroyed. But Hydra's application, although not outright stated, I believe was to digitize the human mind, which is what we see Hydra's leading scientist do to immortalize himself. As for the Red Room's usage, they use it to study which parts of the brain controlled voluntary movement and cognition, but I will get into more of that later. As for what is really important here, Alexei and Yelena adopted two girls to build their cover as a nuclear family, one being Natasha Romanoff and the other Yelena Belova. The four of them felt they had truly developed a familial bond while they were in Ohio, but they split ways after the mission, with Yelena studying and applying the stolen research, Alexei eventually being sent to the Gulag by Dreykov to rot, and the girls are taken to the Red Room to train as Black Widows. Natasha had already gone through some training prior, but this was Yelena's first go-around, and although they got separated, they continued to remember each other as sisters. Natasha became one of the Red Room's best assassins, and S.H.I.E.L.D. put her on a kill list because of the threat she posed. However, Agent Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, spared her life because he saw she wanted out of the Red Room and he offered her a position similar to his. She took the opportunity, and her final initiation for S.H.I.E.L.D. was to kill General Dreykov in Budapest, but that put Dreykov's daughter Antonia in the crossfire, leaving Natasha with immense guilt. And with this, she officially became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although, unknown to Natasha, the Red Room did actually continue to still exist, and because she had found a way out, they finally utilized that stolen data by making alterations to the Widow's brain chemistry in order to remove their free will. Some amount of time later, S.H.I.E.L.D. finds Captain America and wakes him up, and a shorter period of time passes before S.H.I.E.L.D. assembles the Avengers to take down the Norse god Loki and his alien army. Natasha, Clint, and Steve are on the team, alongside Iron Man, the Hulk, and the Norse god Thor. The Avengers of course win, and Iron Man redesigns Stark Tower to be Avengers Tower. In Captain America the Winter Soldier, Natasha and Cap have a run-in with Bucky and discover Hydra's infection in S.H.I.E.L.D. This concludes with them leaking all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s information alongside Hydra's to dismantle the organization as a whole, and Steve jogs some of Bucky's memories back in order. Because of this shakeup, Bucky is pressed to learn about himself in the Captain America Museum. In Avengers Age of Ultron, the titular villain is created by Iron Man and Hulk, and all that should essentially matter is Ultron tries to make a sophisticated body for himself that the Avengers capture, Ultron tries to dinosaur the Earth by raising a city in Sokovia to the sky, the Avengers save the day, and they move from Avengers Tower to Avengers Campus along with some new recruits. Captain America Civil War builds off of this event by introducing the Sokovia Accords and continues Bucky's story as he regains more of his memory and sanity. However, this comes crashing down when Sokovian Baron Helmut Zemo frames Bucky for bombing the United Nations. Steve and Falcon take Bucky's side, but this and disagreements over the Sokovia Accords tears the Avengers apart. Amongst all of this, Bucky is initially arrested, and Zemo uses this opportunity to interrogate him by using Hydra's code words against him and asks where the other Winter Soldiers are. In case you're interested in what those code words are, here they are on screen. Steve, Bucky, and Iron Man track Zemo to Hydra's Moscow base, discovering that Zemo killed the 90s Winter Soldiers and unveiling that Bucky had killed Iron Man's parents. Iron Man blasts Bucky's arm off, Steve drops the shield and takes Bucky to Wakanda, and the Avengers are left torn apart. Wakanda is an African nation within Marvel that is also the most technologically advanced civilization on the planet. King T'Challa, or more popularly known as the Black Panther, owes Bucky an apology since he believed he was the one that bombed the UN and killed his father, so he takes Bucky in to have those code words removed from his memory. The process results in a resounding success, but he is allowed to remain in Wakanda for the time being and is given the nickname White Wolf. Back to Civil War, while Natasha originally agreed with the Accords, she did help Steve and Bucky get to Moscow, thereby making her a fugitive like the rest of Team Cap. In Black Widow, she gets away from Secretary Ross by retreating to Norway and uses a smuggling contact of hers to get a place and a fake identity.
Fanny Longbottom, 2012.
Around this same time, a grown-up Yelena is on a Red Room mission to hunt another defective Widow. Yelena kills her, but not before being sprayed with this red dust that clears her mind. This Widow had made or found a cure for the Red Room chemical alterations, thereby freeing Yelena from the Red Room subjugation. Yelena takes the rest of the red dust and sends it all in a case to Natasha. However, the Red Room has this special agent dubbed Taskmaster who can watch how people fight and replicate their moves. Taskmaster is sent to Natasha's location not for Natasha, but for the case of red dust. Natasha gets the vials before Taskmaster could, realizes who sent them to her, and tracks Yelena down to Budapest. Natasha learns that the Red Room was not destroyed, and that Yelena sent the vials to her so that the Avengers could replicate the dust, but since she's no longer on good terms with them, the two of them decide to take down the Red Room themselves. Because of how close Alexei was to Dreykov, they break him out of the gulag in hopes that he can tell them where it is, but he has no clue where it could be at all. He does know where Melina lives, and that she is still a lead scientist for the Red Room. They have a family bonding moment after 26 years, Alexei puts the suit on for the first time in a long time.
It still fits.
And Melina agrees to help the Widows after learning that her chemical subjugation discoveries were used on Yelena. They get taken up to the Red Room, which is actually a floating sky base. And not only do we learn that Dreykov is still alive, Taskmaster is his daughter Antonia. Ultimately, Melina sets the Red Room on a collision course with the ground, Alexei has a face-off with Antonia, Natasha gets all of the Red Room information downloaded and saved, and Yelena saves the other Widows and delivers the killing blow on Dreykov. In case it's ever referenced, I should probably address that Dreykov had a pheromone thing developed for him that prevented anyone within range from harming him. Lots of people criticize this creative decision, which while I think this works within the kind of chemical context of the story, I do agree that it really adds nothing of value to the story since Natasha gets around it by breaking her nasal nerve. Natasha does get closure with Antonia after using some of the red dust to set her free.
Is it God?
Ross is on the move up, so the family has a final moment together. Yelena gives Natasha her green vest, and the other three of them, plus Antonia, leave with the other freed widows while Natasha faces off against Ross off-screen. I wish I was joking, it actually cuts to black here. Natasha then dyes her hair blonde, and through the same smuggler acquires a Quinjet to help Cap break the rest of his team out of the raft, a high-security prison. We now arrive to the grand canon event that is Avengers Infinity War. Looking at this through Bucky's perspective, he is still in Wakanda on the countryside when T'Challa comes up to him with a new vibranium arm. He knows a fight is on the horizon, and he sees Cap's team from Civil War arrive with the additions of War Machine, Hulk, and Vision. It turns out the gem in Vision's head is an Infinity Stone, one of 6 powerful artifacts akin to the Tesseract Hydra used in the war, and this big purple alien Thanos is on a mission to collect them all. Iron Man and Spider-Man are in space to save the Sorcerer Supreme who has one of the other stones, and Bucky's job on the Earth front is to be armed and dangerous while the Wakandans work to remove Vision's stone. In the end, Thanos takes the Avengers and Wakanda out with ease, gets the final stone, and with a simple snap makes half the universe disappear. Many of the Avengers are dusted, but Bucky is the first we actually see go. While this was all going on, so were the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp. The antagonist of this film is Ava Starr, or more commonly referred to as Ghost. Her father, Elias Starr, was a colleague of Hank Pym's in their days in S.H.I.E.L.D. and continued their quantum research together after Hank left, but Hank had Elias fired and discredited after some disagreement. Attempting to restore his name, Elias took too many risks when testing with a quantum tunnel. The little girl Ava went to comfort him as the machine went haywire and exploded quantum energy stuff everywhere at the site. Both her parents were killed in the accident, but all that quantum goodness left her with molecular disequilibrium.
Every cell in my body is torn apart and stitched back together over and over every day.
Basically, she can go intangible, but it's a power/curse she found very hard to control and very painful. Being a quantum anomaly, S.H.I.E.L.D. sent Bill Foster, another former colleague of Hank's, and he helped keep her safe. In case it is brought up, Bill and Hank worked on a project dubbed Goliath, and What If has shown this off in 2 of their episodes. Back to Ava, S.H.I.E.L.D. made her a suit that helped her control her phasing so she could function as a stealth operative in exchange for the promise of curing her. This process was in vain, and Bill took her in when S.H.I.E.L.D. collapsed and built her a containment chamber to help her stabilize her, but her decay was getting worse. The conflict occurs when Hank finds hope in retrieving his long-lost wife from the quantum realm, and Bill and Ava theorize that all the quantum energy Janet would bring back with her may be enough to stabilize her disequilibrium. Skipping ahead to the end, Janet does come back carrying excess energy and stabilizes Ava for the time being, but she needs to run after causing lots of property damage throughout the movie, and Bill promises he's not leaving her. As for the aftermaths, we learn she still needs doses of quantum energy to remain stable, so Ant-Man is sent to retrieve some, but is left stranded after the Pym Dine family was dusted away. This is all we know of Ghost's story, and she doesn't really connect to anyone else, so that's why I compiled all of her stuff right here. Now, my suspicion is that she was also a part of the half that were dusted, because unless Bill was managing to help her get all that quantum energy, she wasn't getting anything for 5 whole years. Where did the 5 years come from? Well, the Avengers tracked down Thanos shortly after the snap, but he used the Infinity Stones to destroy themselves. Thus, there was no Uno Reverse card that they could use. Because Ant-Man was stuck in the quantum realm and bumbled his way into a time vortex, he was released by the infamous Rat Savior 5 whole years after the snap, despite feeling like only 5 hours. With this insight, the Avengers create time travel utilizing the wonky rules of the quantum realm and collect each of the stones from the past. In order to get the Soul Stone, however, as the disclaimer goes,
A soul for a soul.
the 2 Avengers sent to retrieve that stone were Natasha and Clint, meaning one of them had to be sacrificed. Clint lost his entire family in the snap and turned to a life of vengeance as the Ronin during those 5 years, so he feels he needs to atone for those sins. But Natasha also has the red from her widow ledger and knows that his family will come back when things are done, so she sacrifices herself for the team instead. This is important information that will help us later! After all this, the Avengers make a snap to bring all those who were dusted back, a past Thanos comes through to the present and destroys Avengers Campus, and Iron Man gets the stones to snap Thanos' army away, sacrificing his own life in the process. Continuing Bucky's story and continuing a new one, we are now at the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. At the end of Endgame, Falcon is entrusted to be the next Captain America, but he finds the mantle too daunting and has the shield placed in a new Captain America exhibit. Bucky is in court-mandated therapy to make sure he's truly back to a normal mental state, and a part of that is apologizing to the victims he's harmed, or their associated families if the original member is unavailable. Because even if he wasn't in control during those missions, he has a complete memory of his Winter Soldier days.
Do you even remember them? I remember all of it.
Falcon rejecting the mantle does not help his journey either, as Falcon's doubts give Bucky doubts about Steve's opinions toward him. Of course, the government is not just gonna let the shield sit there, so they promote their own new Captain America through John Walker. John is a service member with an accomplished track record and was propped for being the most promising candidate. He is truly grateful for this opportunity and has his close friend Lamar Hoskins as his sidekick Battlestar, paralleling Steve and Bucky's original dynamic, but none of this gels well with Bucky or Falcon. There is also a rise of a group called the Flag Smashers who stand against the Global Repatriation Council, or GRC, and many of its key members are a new breed of super soldiers. This catches Falcon and Bucky's attention as well as John and Lamar's, and yes, Bucky doing all of this goes against his court orders. John suggests the 4 of them should team up in their efforts to take down the Flag Smashers, but Bucky and Falcon decline their offer. As for how Bucky plans to get ahead of John and Lamar, he helps Zemo break out of prison to utilize his disdain towards super soldiers. Zemo takes Bucky and Falcon to Madripoor, where they learn the Flag Smashers stole their serums from the Power Broker and kill the scientists to prevent more from being created. However, Zemo not being behind bars got the attention of the Wakandan Dora Milaje, so Bucky negotiates a little more time before turning him over. John and Lamar catch up to them and join forces for an ambush, but while that goes south, Zemo finds and breaks the remaining super soldier serum vials until John stops him and pockets the remaining sample. John makes a terrible first impression with the Dora Milaje when they come to pick up Zemo early. Bucky briefly loses their respect and learns the hard way that his new arm is detachable, and of course Zemo scurried off during the whole skirmish. Having lost 2 confrontations that day, John is tempted to use the serum for himself. He first asks Lamar what he would do if given the opportunity, to which he quickly says yeah. John takes the serum before the next ambush, but when John is about to get stabbed by the lead smasher Carly Morgenthau, Lamar jumps into action and is repaid with a killing blow. Consumed by anger, John chases down one of the smashers to ask where Carly went, but as he surrenders, John ruthlessly murders him in the open and coats the shield in blood. Before John can take much time to grapple what he's just done, Bucky and Falcon use this opportunity to get the shield back. John nearly solos each of them, although they break his arm and get the upper hand, and when Bucky has the chance to take the shield, he still leaves it for Falcon. Bucky tracks down Zemo and completes his arc there before returning him to the Dora Milaje. As they take him away to the raft, Bucky asks a favor for Falcon to have a new set of wings. As for John, he is stripped of the Captain America title and begins making a homemade shield for himself. In the final episode, the Flag Smashers interrupt and take over a GRC meeting, so Bucky, Falcon with his new wings, John with the makeshift shield, and Sharon Carter arrive to the scene. To put it shortly, Sharon is the niece of Steve's love interest during the war, was a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent before it collapsed, then a fugitive after helping Steve during Civil War, and is now secretly the power broker. John's shield does not last very long. Falcon helps the captured GRC members, John and Bucky round up the Flag Smashers together, and Sharon gets the final shot on Carly. The episode ends with Falcon as the new Cap. The rest of the Flag Smashers are killed off thanks to Zemo's butler while he was in the raft. Sharon is re-entrusted with government secrets and calls someone we don't see. John is approached by
Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine,
who gives him a job offer as the U.S.Agent, and Bucky finishes going through his list of apologies. Fun fact, the book with all the journal names is the same book Steve used after coming out of the ice, and now it's out of his hands, bringing this series to a close. Oh, come on! Why does Falcon get renamed but Bucky doesn't go from Winter Soldier to the White Wolf or something? They even address the name in the show.
Little time in Wakanda and you come out White Panther.
It's actually White Wolf.
Huh?
That aside, we finish Bucky's story for now in Captain America Brave New World. Bucky makes a brief appearance to reassure Captain America after the new Falcon got in an accident. We also learn that Bucky is a congressman now apparently. I have thoughts about this to say the least, but if you want to hear about them, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll make a separate video or something. But simply put, I'm surprised he even got elected given his dark and public history and canonically being the man who assassinated JFK. I do think he could do a great job, particularly in how he keeps up with the times.
What big 3? Androids, aliens, and wizards.
There are no wizards.
Doctor Strange
Is a sorcerer.
Circling back to Yelena, she spends the next year or so after the Black Widow movie using the Red Room's copy database to track down and free other widows around the world. Another fun fact, we see one of the freed widows in Shang-Chi's Golden Daggers Club, showing how some of them have repurposed their skills. Speaking of, another former widow suggests contract killing, but before Yelena could even consider it, we get what is arguably the best POV of the blip as she is transported from 2018 to 2023. Amongst her reasonable confusion, the dramatic irony for us finally kicks in.
I need to find Natasha. I need to tell her I'm okay.
While Iron Man had his funeral at home, Natasha has a tombstone back in Ohio. This scene in which we see Yelena cry at her grave is surely not her first time there because there are 2 new things for her since the blip. Firstly, she has a dog now named Fanny, likely from Natasha's brief alias, and secondly, she has taken the mercenary path and takes missions under Val.
Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death.
In the Hawkeye series, Yelena tries to kill Clint both for her contract and out of misdirected vengeance. When she encounters Clint's current protege, Kate Bishop, she follows her home and asks why she's loyal to him given all the bad things he's done, such as killing her sister. We do get a hint that Yelena and Alexi's father-daughter relationship is going strong, but it's Kate's response which is important. She prompts Yelena to look into who hired her, and it's none other than Kate's mom Eleanor working for the Kingpin. During Clint's Ronin days, he did a few jobs for the Kingpin, and now they want to shut him up just to be safe. In their next skirmish, Clint tries to tell Yelena that Natasha had sacrificed herself and how he tried his best to stop her, but she does not listen to him until he uses the same whistle she and Natasha had used growing up in Ohio. This finally convinces her that he is telling the truth and confirming how close he and Natasha were. And with that acceptance, we have not seen Yelena since. While we have covered our 6 key players, I want to talk a little bit deeper about what we know on Valentina. We learned she is the director of the CIA and ex-wife of Everett Ross, the CIA agent from both Black Panther movies and Civil War. This does not explain why she's reaching out to John, Yelena, and or whoever else, but it explains where she's getting all her intel from.
You did the right thing, taking the serum. Yeah, of course I know about that.
The man responsible for your sister's death.
I have no unsanctioned contact with the Kingdom of Wakanda.
What about the beads? I had them bugged before you ever even got there.
She does have a fascination with vibranium, which the CIA found some outside of Wakanda at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. She does give John this interesting line regarding the shield as she approached him since it had been taken away and right after his title was stripped.
By the way, don't worry about the shield. I know you don't have it. Here's a little dirty state secret. It doesn't really belong to the government. It's kind of a legal gray area.
What does this mean exactly? Not too sure, but while on the topic of shields, there is this gripe I have. The Black Widow movie and What If episodes show that Alexei had a shield when he was the Red Guardian, and Antonia also happens to have a shield under the Red Room. Both seem to function like the Captain America shield, and yet there are 0 lines of dialogue addressing them. The most we get is in this What If episode where Natasha finds Alexei's and asks,
Clint, is this my color?
but that's it. My speculation is that the Russians made or got their own shield, possibly out of vibranium, and gave it to Alexei to use. When he was put in the gulag, the Red Room took the shield back, did a nice little repaint, and then gave it to Antonia to use. If that is the case, then the last time we saw the shield was when Alexei threw it out a window at a dude as the Red Room was collapsing. If Val ends up being the glue that brings these characters together, she'll be taking on a Nick Fury-esque role, but with 0 competition. Fury kickstarted a new organization called Saber up in space after S.H.I.E.L.D. was dismantled, and the Avengers are no longer official. In Spider-Man Homecoming, it is confirmed that Avengers Tower has been sold, but the buyer was never established, and Avengers Campus was blown to smithereens by Thanos in Endgame. Alongside that, there is a general intrigue in restarting the Avengers, which we see President Ross asking Captain America to do, and we see Ms. Marvel possibly starting the Young Avengers. The closest we get to any affiliation is in Shang-Chi, where we have a video call between Wong, Hulk, and Captain Marvel. To me, this echoes the imagery of the Illuminati, which we did see a version of in another universe. Speaking of the multiverse saga, this movie will mark the end of Phase 5, so what general world or multiverse things have been happening recently? The WandaVision series saw Wanda take over an entire town with her powers, and the organization's sword rebooted Vision's body into a new white form, but he regained independence and went to who knows where. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has the most quantum stuff since Endgame and the last Ant-Man film, and introduces the multiversal villain Kang alongside his army and Council of Variants. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and the Marvels take characters across universes, Strange ending his movie by going through a cryptic portal, and Monica Rambeau fixing a jump gate corrupted by quantum bands and getting stuck in an entirely new universe. Even Brave New World, though not well executed, also has multiversal implications as the big brain antagonist is supposed to warn Captain America of another world's Illuminati, but it came off as a vague multiversal threat. With all this jargon thrown your way, it should be all you need and a little more going into the Thunderbolts movie. What is the asterisk for? I guess we'll have to figure that out for ourselves. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and comment down below who your favorite Thunderbolt character is. And if you want to stay in the loop for more content just like this, please consider subscribing and joining the Pub and Fic community. Anyway, that is all. Sayonara.